Welcome to the Deep Dive. You ever see one of those super quick viral videos, maybe someone just dunking their head in bottled water?
Oh, yeah.
And then suddenly, bam, that brand is everywhere.
Happens all the time now.
Exactly, like Ashton Hall did for Saratoga Spring Water. Their CEO said he really helped put our brand on the map. Just like that.
Wow.
Or think about Coach, the handbag brand.
Sure, classic mall brand.
Right, but now it's like a Gen Z status symbol. Millions of TikToks, those little cherry charms everywhere.
All driven by influencers.
Totally. It's just so clear, isn't it? The whole connection between brands and us, it's completely shifted.
Yeah.
And it's moving fast.
It really is. And it's more than just a fad, It's fundamentally about trust, where people discover brands, who they believe. It's not the big flashy ads so much anymore. It's people they follow online. That line between, like, a celebrity ad and a friend's recommendation, it's basically gone.
Yeah, blurred completely.
And that's super powerful, especially for reaching audiences who are, let's be honest, pretty skeptical of companies talking about themselves.
That skepticism is key. And that's exactly what we're going to unpack today. We're doing a deep dive into this exploding world of influencer marketing.
Taking all those sources.
Yep, taking your sources, the latest articles, the research, the sharpest insights, and boiling them down into practical, actionable stuff, especially for you if you're a brand manager.
Right.
Our whole mission here is to get past just knowing what it is. We want you to understand how to actually use it strategically, how to measure if it's working, and how to handle all the tricky bits in your campaigns now and looking ahead.
Makes sense.
And this deep dive, it's brought to you by viralfusion.io. They're experts in influencer marketing, helping your brand turn attention into revenue.
Okay, so maybe let's start with the sheer scale, because the numbers, they're pretty staggering.
Hit me with them.
All right, so the global influencer marketing industry, it's expected to jump, get this, 36% just between 2024 and 2025.
36%.
Yeah.
In 1 year.
Yeah, pushing it close to like $33 billion globally.
Wow.
And think about where it came from. It was only $1.7 billion back in 2016.
That's insane growth.
Totally. And by the end of this year, 2024, the estimate is around $24 billion. It's not just growth. It's like an explosion.
And brands are clearly noticing. They're putting serious money down.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Investment in these influencer partnerships.
Oh,
Up 49% in 2024.
almost 50% increase.
Yep. And content creators. They're actually topping the social media marketing budgets now, taking up, on average, about a quarter of the entire annual spend.
A quarter of the budget. So, okay, for a brand manager listening, juggling priorities, fighting for results, what does this huge shift in spending really signal?
Well, it signals we're way past the let's try this out phase. It's core now. And a big reason, that consumer suspicion we talked about.
Right, the skepticism of corporate messages.
Exactly. Look at Unilever's CEO, Fernando Fernandez. He actually said he plans to hire 20 times more influencers. Yeah, as part of their whole social-first marketing strategy. Why? Because, in his words, consumers are suspicious of the usual corporate stuff. They're even planning to push up to 50% of their total ad budget towards social media, up from 30%. That's a massive internal shift.
50%. Wow. Okay, 20 times more influencers. That's almost hard to wrap your head around. It really underlines how much the digital natives, like Gen Z, are dictating this.
Definitely.
These are people who've always had control over what they watch, what they consume, and they just trust people more than logos, don't they?
They absolutely do. So the challenge is, how do you bridge that gap if your brand maybe has a more traditional base, but you still need to connect with these younger groups?
Yeah, how?
Well, it really comes down to two things: authenticity and knowing the platforms.
Okay.
Influencers, they speak the language of TikTok or Instagram or whatever platform it is. They know how to frame a message so it feels, natural, not like a forced ad.
We're kind of setting the trends themselves sometimes.
Often, yeah. And beyond just the feel of it, the numbers back it up financially. It seems to be really cost-effective.
How so?
Well, one figure floating around is businesses seeing about $6.50 in revenue for every $1 they spend on influencer marketing.
$6.50 return. That sounds almost too good to be true.
It's a strong number, for sure. Plus, it's just more flexible, isn't it? Quicker than planning a big traditional ad campaign. You could pivot faster, tweak the message.
Okay, that $6.50 return is definitely attention-grabbing. But playing devil's advocate here for the brand manager, isn't there a huge risk when you kind of hand over the reins creatively?
Oh, absolutely.
How do you balance that amazing potential ROI with, keeping your brand safe and consistent?
That's a really critical point, and yeah, we'll definitely dig into the risks properly later on.
Okay.
But I think the main takeaway here is that your next big growth spurt might not just be about throwing more money at ads. It's about building trust, real trust, through voices people actually listen to in these like micro communities.
So it means influencer marketing isn't just some side project or add-on anymore.
Exactly. It needs to be a key discussion point right there in your main marketing meetings. It has to shape your core strategy, making sure you're in sync with how people are actually consuming content now.
Hmm.
You really have to think about what this shift says about consumer behavior, media habits, especially, like you said, with younger folks.
Okay, so the why is crystal clear. Massive shift, driven by trust and changing habits. But okay, I'm a brand manager, I'm listening. The big question is how? How do we actually do this? Who do we partner with? Where do we start?
Right. So that takes us nicely into the strategic side, how you actually implement it. And first off, it's really helpful to understand the different tiers of influencer.
Okay, the categories.
Yeah. Usually we talk about four main types. You've got your mega influencers. They have like over 1 million followers.
The big names.
Then macro influencers. That's usually under 1,000 up to 1 million. Then micro influencers, maybe 10,000 to 100,000. And finally, nano influencers. They have 10,000 followers or even fewer.
Right. And what's really interesting, looking at the sources you provided, is that you'd think brands would chase the megas, the biggest reach,
I
right?
think so, yeah.
But the data says the opposite. Brands actually seem to prefer working with the smaller ones.
It's true.
Like 44% of brands are choosing nanos and another 26% go for micros.
That's huge.
That's 70%. 70% are opting for these like more niche, probably more engaged communities, way more than the macros at 17% or the big celebrities at only 13%.
It really suggests that authenticity and genuine connection are winning out over just sheer numbers.
So maybe the real ROI isn't just eyeballs, it's belief, it's trust. You almost need to rethink your success metrics, don't you? Prioritize engagement, advocacy, not just impressions.
Exactly. And that lines up with the campaign goals we're seeing. What's the number one objective? User-generated content, UGC.
Ah, getting real people to create content.
Yeah, 56% of campaigns prioritize that.
Ah,
Shows how much they value that authentic, relatable look. Driving actual sales is second at 23%. And if you look specifically at the micro-influencers, the main goal there is often brand awareness, that's 65%, followed by getting content you can reuse in your own ads, which is 22%.
and the type of content they're asking for, it's overwhelmingly video, right? Short video.
Oh, massively. 87%, nearly 9 out of 10 requests for micro-influencers are for short videos. TikToks, Instagram Reels.
The stuff that dominates feeds.
Yep. And the sweet spot seems to be around 20 to 40 seconds long. Interestingly, videos with voiceovers tend to get more views.
Good tip.
And yeah, TikTok still seems to be king for engagement rates overall. But don't totally write off longer stuff.
Oh.
Yeah, there's a feeling that episodic, long-form content, both audio like podcasts and video, could be pretty big in 2025. And
Okay.
YouTube is actually growing, especially with older demographics who might be choosing it over, say, traditional TV.
Interesting. So a mix is probably smart. Beyond formats, though, what other trends should brand managers be watching for in, say, 2025?
Okay, there's some really cool emerging things. First, keep an eye on LinkedIn video and B2B creators.
LinkedIn.
Yeah. Their short-form video feature is taking off. It's creating this space for B2B influencers, even leaders within companies, to share advice, make their brands feel more human, more approachable.
Ah, like social proof for business.
Exactly. It provides that relatability in a professional context.
I've definitely seen more of that. It makes sense. That other trend you mentioned, faceless content, that's fascinating too. What's behind that? Is it just privacy?
Privacy is a big part of it, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But it also shifts the focus purely onto the content's value, like a cooking tutorial, where you just see the hands and the food.
Right.
But the creator's personality can still come through in their voice, their style, how they explain things. It's just building trust differently.
And then there's this idea of a more democratized strategy, like involving customers.
Yeah, this is really interesting. Brands inviting their top customers on influencer trips, right alongside the usual influencers.
To get a double benefit.
Pretty much. The influencers bring their communities, obviously, but the customers, they offer genuine, authentic endorsement, and they're already financially supporting the brand. It's quite clever.
Very clever. And then, of course, social commerce. Buying stuff directly in the app.
Exploding. Absolutely. We're moving fast towards direct purchases right there on social platforms. Affiliate marketing is a huge driver here, making that path to purchase Really smooth, really
It's
easy.
an easy onward journey, as one source put it.
Exactly. And one last thing, influencers themselves are becoming brands.
Expanding their empires.
Totally. Launching their own product lines, podcasts, newsletters, paid subscription content. They're not just channels anymore, they're becoming full-on media businesses.
Okay, wow. So this landscape is getting pretty complex, pretty strategic.
It definitely is. And navigating all these trends, finding the right partners, understanding the nuances, it really highlights the need for some expert guidance.
Which brings us back to our sponsor.
Precisely. This is exactly what viralfusion.io does. They are experts in influencer marketing, and they help brands turn all this attention into actual revenue. They can really help you figure out these trends and pinpoint the partnerships that make sense for your specific goals.
So drilling down the key learning here for you, the brand manager,
Yeah,
you've got to think way beyond just follower counts now, right?
absolutely.
It's about authenticity, finding the right platform fit, mixing up your content formats. How do you actually reach the right audience effectively, not just the biggest one? Maybe explore those niche influencers or even look at platforms like LinkedIn if it fits your objectives.
Yeah, the future seems to be about depth, about real connection, not just spraying your message wide.
Okay, but connection comes with risks. We touched on it earlier. Let's talk pitfalls. What are the big watchouts?
Well, a big one is what some call the free stuff trap, and just the whole issue of brand responsibility.
Okay, what's the trap?
There was a recent decision by the NAD, the National Advertising Division, involving Charlotte Tilbury and Huda Beauty. And basically, it showed that brands can be held responsible for claims made by influencers they just send free products to, even if there's no formal contract or payment. If there's a pattern of sending stuff, you're potentially liable.
Whoa, okay. That's huge. So just sending out PR packages isn't risk-free?
Not at all.
Yeah.
It means those FTC endorsement guides, they're absolutely critical. You have to instruct influencers to clearly disclose when they got something for free.
And tell them how to disclose it properly.
Exactly. And you need to actually monitor their posts to make sure they're complying. The FTC is clear. You, the brand, are on the hook for influencers' deceptive claims.
Oof. Okay, so practical tips for the brand manager listening.
Actively monitor those posts. Be ready to quickly ask for corrections or even takedowns if something's misleading. Give clear instructions on disclosure. Keep records of your communication. And make sure your internal policies are up to date on all this.
Diligence is key. Beyond the legal stuff, there's just the straight-up reputational risk, too, isn't there?
Oh, massive. Social media has that instant feedback loop. One source put it perfectly. When it goes wrong, because it's social, it goes wrong very quickly.
Yeah. You only need to look at something like the Adidas Kanye West situation back in 2022.
A very stark reminder of the dangers of tying your brand too closely to one public figure. Huge financial and reputational hit.
Which kind of leads us to something, well, potentially less risky, maybe. AI-generated influencers.
Ah, yes. The virtual influencers.
Are these becoming a real thing? The numbers seem to suggest so. Like 62% of marketers said they used them in 2024.
Yeah, and over half of U.S. social media users apparently follow at least one.
So, are we talking about perfect, always on brand, and never controversial spokespeople? Is this the future, or does it feel a bit weird?
It's definitely the big question, isn't it?
Yeah.
On the plus side, yes, they offer total control, no scandals, no skeletons in the closet.
Right.
And you hear about companies like Meta planning to use AI to pretty much automate ad creation entirely. But it throws up that fundamental question, how much value there is in being human versus an AI when it comes to engaging audiences.
Yeah. Does it kill the authenticity part that we just said was so important?
That's the tension. For so long, influencer marketing has been built on that idea of genuine human connection. Can an AI truly replicate that? Or does it fundamentally change what influencer marketing is? Brands are definitely going to be wrestling with this.
It's one to watch for sure. Okay, finally, let's talk measurement. Because at the end of the day, you need to know if this stuff is actually working, right? Show the results.
Absolutely. Got to track the impact. Our sources say about 80% of brands are tracking sales from their influencer campaigns.
How are they doing that mostly?
Seems like the most common ways are collecting email addresses, that's about 30%, using unique referral links, around 28%, and good old coupon codes, about 15%.
Okay, so trackable methods. What about the broader ROI metrics beyond direct sales?
Well, the most tracked metrics are still things like impressions, reach, and views. About 54% of brands look at that. Then you have clicks or engagement like likes and comments. That's about 23.5%. And then direct sales or conversions at around 22%.
Got it. So for the brand manager, the takeaway here isn't just what you measure, but maybe how you ensure accountability across the board.
Exactly. You absolutely must do your homework, your due diligence,
Hmm.
set up really clear, legally sound guidelines for all your influencers, paid or just getting free stuff,
Right.
and have systems in place to actually monitor what's being posted. And while you're doing all that careful groundwork, yeah, maybe be open to experimenting with new things like AI influencers. But always keep that human connection piece front and center in your thinking. How does it define your brand?
So wrapping this all up then, influencer marketing. It's clearly not just evolving fast, it's forcing a total rethink of how brands connect. It's demanding serious strategic investment, sure, but also really diverse tactics and, as we just discussed, careful risk management.
Huh?
It's definitely not a bolt-on activity anymore.
No, it's becoming central to the whole marketing engine for many brands.
Okay, so as you, our listener, digest all of this for your own brand, here's something to chew on. A final thought.
Hmm.
In this world we're heading into, where AI can potentially create flawless, compliant influencers, and where your best customers might actually join your official influencer roster,
Hmm.
how are brands going to truly stand out through human connection?
Yeah, what does authenticity even mean in that context?
Exactly. What new metrics will define it in 2025 and beyond? What does all that mean for your brand's unique story? How will you tell it?
Deep questions.
Definitely things to think about. And as you navigate these really vital questions, remember that viralfusion.io are experts in influencer marketing, helping your brand turn attention into revenue.
They really can provide that expertise to help make sense of these fast-moving trends effectively.
We really encourage you to take these insights, mull them over, and see how you can apply them to your brand's specific challenges and opportunities.